podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving into a topic that's getting a lot of attention lately: the powerful connection between the gut, the nervous system, and the metabolic health. And my guest today is someone who brings both clinical experience and a functional medicine lens to this conversation. Listeners, meet Angie Gallagher. She's a national board certified functional medicine health and wellness coach. Now, from building a cardiac rehab program from the ground up to now helping clients outside the walls of traditional healthcare system, Angie's journey is truly inspiring as it is bold, and we are going to explore and understand why gut health matters beyond digestion, how it ties into our nervous system and metabolism, and what conventional approaches might be missing. So, with that, Angie, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really excited to have you with us in this conversation today.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Angie, before we um, talk about the connection between our gut and nervous system, would you like to share a bit about your own journey? I mean, what exactly brought you to understand this powerful connection?
Oh my goodness. Well, working in cardiac rehab for so many years and seeing people in what we call the revolving door pattern, where they were coming to cardiac rehab multiple times after multiple cardiac events, and realizing that there was more to the picture than just blaming it on one or two factors like cholesterol. And once I learned about the functional medicine approach and what's really going on below the surface in terms of our gut health and our metabolic health, I learned that these people didn't need to be on this constant merry-go-round of heart disease, and so it's just been my passion to educate people about that ever since.
Wow, that is really, really empowering, Angie. Really. And I I think in today's context, it is more than ever important to address this, because when we talk about the gut and the nervous system connection, we kind of don't relate both of them. But what's really happening in the body, Angie? I mean, why should the average person, me or anyone, should even care about it?
Oh my goodness, it's so foundational. It is so
Mhm.
foundational to truly having good health. I like to think of gut health and nervous system health as being the foundation to build our health upon. We can be doing all the right things. We can be exercising. We can be, practicing um, basically good eating habits. But
Mhm.
if we're not addressing truly the health of our gut and our digestion and our nervous system, then whatever we're trying to build on top of that it's not going to last. It's not going to work ultimately. So the nervous system is, basically what keeps us, what manages whether we're in our sort of rest and digest state or our fight or flight state. And of course, there's a place for both, but we really have so much of the time we're spending in our fight or flight state. And the rest and digest side of the nervous system is really what helps the body to be able to do the work of digestion and elimination. The vagal nerve, which is the nerve of the parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system, is
Mhm.
responsible for innervating the digestive tract and the gut. And so if we're not keeping ourselves in that state, that calm, relaxed state throughout the day, no
Mhm.
matter how healthy the food we're eating, we're not going to digest and assimilate it well. And then that can lead to issues in the various stages of digestion, ultimately causing either leaky gut or dysbiosis. So, how the state that we're in our nervous system has a direct impact on how the food we eat affects our body.
Mm. Well, I absolutely agree with you, Angie, because um, there is a connection. We have talked about hormones, we have talked about gut health, metabolism. Sometimes, even if we are in the best of our health, though we feel, discomfort, can be acidity or can be bloating or
Yes.
be uneasiness. And we kind of blame it on the weather or maybe the water or the food. But I
Yeah.
think we do not. realize that it can be a nervous system as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you can have two different people sit down and eat the same meal and drink the same
Mm.
water on vacation, and one person might get food poisoning or a parasite and the other person doesn't. And there's a lot to it's a lot to do with what's going on below the hood in our different ecosystems.
Definitely. And Angie, as you mentioned that you have worked in cardiac rehab and now you are in functional medicine, um, where do you see the biggest disconnect or gap between traditional cardiology and the metabolic root cause approaches?
Oh, wow. Well, I think that the biggest difference is that in the Western medicine conventional approach,
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much just focus on LDL cholesterol. I mean, they wanna get blood pressure down, they want people to lose weight, but they're not really measuring or looking at the metabolic markers, and those I actually just worked with a client recently who had a heart attack, and, of course, all they wanted to do is put her on medication for blood pressure and a statin. She didn't have high blood pressure to begin with, and, she was really questioning whether she wanted to be on the statin, so we worked together and we measured her metabolic markers, and she was insulin resistant, and they never would have found that. They were not looking for that. They were just saying, "We're gonna get your LDL as low as possible," without really looking at metabolic health or looking at inflammatory markers, and so, a big factor for her was that she was insulin resistant, and we needed to address that. And she decided to go on the lowest dose of statin and not the highest dose, because she does have some pretty weird numbers. She's kind of a mystery, but yeah. So I think that's the biggest factor. It's like if your doctor's telling you to take a statin, but they're not measuring your metabolic health, they're not looking at your fasting insulin level, they're not addressing um, the various labs that they can measure and run to look at your metabolic health and how insulin sensitive or insulin resistant you are, and they're not doing that.
Well, surprising, surprising. And I think as a patient also it really feels frustrating here because um, I mean, we are so dreadful about the numbers that we see in our reports or we are just monitoring it. But it's kind of not addressing the why behind this. So, Anjit,
Exactly.
do you think hospitals will ever fully embrace root cause approaches or they'll still be with the quick fix model?
Oh, it's such a good question. It's such a good question. I think as functional medicine grows in awareness and more doctors are because I think people go into medicine to truly help, right? They don't go into
Mhm.
medicine to get caught up in a bureaucratic health system. They do it because they want to help, and I think that as more young medical professionals become aware of the functional medicine approach, they're gonna be looking for places that embrace that practice, and hospitals are gonna have a harder time getting recruiting if they're not open to those practices. So I think that it's gonna be eventually the healers, the people who are really going into the work to heal, they're gonna say, "I'm not gonna come work for you if you're not going to embrace a model that is consistent with my values." So I think that's gonna be kinda how it where the push is gonna come from because, of course, there's always gonna be a very heavy, heavy push from the pharmaceuticals trying to control. I mean, they're really the ones that are setting all the standards. If someone goes into the hospital with a heart attack, they have to be discharged on these four new medications. So they're going to have to be really working with the insurance companies and changing the guidelines. And yeah, it's going to be quite a process to get there. Yeah, an overhaul for sure.
Exactly. There has to be a huge overhaul, but let's see. I'm still bullish about this.
Yeah, I do believe it will happen. I do believe that the people who are the healers will push back against, the current state of affairs, and but it's gonna take some time for sure to get there, and there's a lot of people that are just die hard that old approach. They are just like they will go to their grave with this idea that it's all about getting cholesterol and LDL as low as possible. They just are hell bent on that being the truth, and there's just nothing we can do to change their mind.
And then you also have said that inflammation and oxidation, they are key players in heart disease, not just
Yes.
about we just listened to one of the example that is shared, about the blood pressure, that even if her blood pressure wasn't high.
Yeah.
So can you break down how gut health might actually drive inflammation in the body?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the gut wall is a single cell layer thick. So you think about, how thin of a layer that is between the outside world, which is the food we're putting in our body, and the inner workings of our body. It's a single cell layer that is supposed to protect us. And what happens is we could eat a lot of processed foods that are full of thickeners and fillers and stabilizers, and they really, damage there's like a mucus barrier on top of that layer, that single cell layer, and they can damage that mucus layer, and then they can cause disruption to the gut wall. So we don't know for sure if it's all, there's lots of theories about gluten poking holes in the gut wall. It may not be gluten entirely, but it may be gluten that's sprayed with glyphosate, or it may be gluten that's in bread that's quick rise versus like a slow rise or a sourdough. We don't know. Many people stop eating gluten and many of their inflammatory issues go away. But we know that processed foods, we know that a lot of those thickeners, fillers, emulsifiers that they put in these processed foods are creating problems. It can also there's other things that can then cause that damage. People can be sensitive to certain anti-nutrients in different foods, like lectins and phytates. So there's various things that can cause disruption to the gut wall. And once that happens, 75% of our immune cells are circulating just inside the gut wall. So our immune system is right there at the ready, right there where the outside world meets our inside body. And when things get through the gut wall that shouldn't get through, because we've created this increased permeability of the membrane, then the immune system is there kind of going on attack. It's like, what's all this stuff getting through? And then the immune system starts to become sort of hyper vigilant. It's just kind of in constant attack mode. And when your immune system is in attack mode, it's creating inflammation. There's a reason for that, right? If we get injured, we need an inflammatory process as part of the healing. But when this is happening meal after meal, snack after snack, because we're just eating garbage all day long, or even eating things that just our bodies don't agree with. We have to be really aware that there are food sensitivities that can create problems because we aren't aware that that's a sensitivity in our body. But so when that's happening, then the immune system just becomes hypervigilant, and it starts to become confused, and it starts to attack its own tissue. And this can be that we're now learning that type 2 diabetes is basically a form of autoimmune disease. So autoimmune is the immune system is now attacking the body's own tissue. And so this happens in the case of autoimmune thyroiditis, Hashimoto's. It happens in, a lot of the cognitive decline issues, a lot of skin issues. I
Yeah.
actually had a client go off gluten, just as, for 6 weeks to see what happens, because he also had a heart condition, and his psoriasis cleared up. Like, he was not expecting that at all, and it totally cleared up. So you fix the gut, and a lot of other things can get better. So it's
Mhm.
that's where inflammation starts. It's an immune system that's confused, and it's just creating it's overactive and creating inflammation where we don't need it.
That makes a lot of sense. And now, for such a long time, we have been hearing so much about all these probiotics and prebiotics and gut cleanses. But how much do you think is of that is marketing hype? How
Mhm.
much is truly impactful for improving this gut nervous system metabolism connection?
Yeah, I love that question because I think, as we become more aware of the importance of a healthy gut, all these companies are like, "Ooh, there's a way to make some money." Get these people who are like newly ready to invest in their gut health, and let's just like profit off of this. And I think there's so much of that going on right now. I mean, there's just new companies coming up all the time with fancy labels, and oh my gosh. So I think that I mean, my preference is always using food as much
Yeah.
as possible, so I really encourage people to make their own fermented vegetables, make your own yogurt,
Yeah.
get your probiotics and your prebiotics in actual food, and then if you're unable to, for some people, they just like, there's just a million excuses and they just have a hard time. And so I have certain companies that I really believe are doing a lot of good work in that space of probiotics. And
Mhm.
so I do have a few companies that I really believe in, and I will encourage people to use those if they're really just not able to get the fermented foods in their diet.
Mm.
Does that answer the question?
Definitely, definitely, and I really appreciate that honesty, because instead of all these, trendy supplements. In fact, I also believe in that only. And I'm a huge fan of homemade yogurt. That
Mm,
has been kind of, since childhood, it has been so kind of a nostalgic food for me because my
oh
mother used
yeah.
to yogurt. So I love that. And
Did you have raw yogurt
yeah,
growing up?
yes, raw yogurt.
Yes, that's the best.
I need no flavoring, that I can just eat raw yogurt. I don't
Yes,
kind of.
I love it. I used to milk goats. I went out to this goat farm, about 20 miles away, and I would milk the goats with my own hand and then bring the raw goat milk yogurt home and make kefir with it. And I love that nourishment. It's just amazing.
Beautiful. And so Angie, it's really, really inspiring and bold to see that you are going against the traditional healthcare approach that we are seeing.
Yes.
But you still, um, I mean, I would love to ask, how has this experience shaped the way you approach coaching now? I mean, do you ever struggle with this uh, resistance from your clients themselves?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's also such a good question, because in the last 5 years especially, there's been a huge disconnect between functional medicine, viewpoints on things and conventional medicine, and I've
Okay.
had to be really, intentional and careful about, uh, kinda where um what I say and around who, um, because I think that there are a lot of people I can help even if we don't agree on everything, and so I don't wanna necessarily push people away because I'm, too out there, on the fringe about everything. I would say that because I'm pretty active on social media, and I'm pretty clear about, what I value and what I'm passionate about and how I work, and so I think the people who are drawn to me are generally the people who are more open to trying different things, and I think that
Mhm.
the people who aren't, if I haven't screened well enough, because when you're new in your business, you kind of want to take everybody, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I got to get clients, like I got to build this
Yes.
business.
Yes.
And so you might take people that had you screen them better, maybe wouldn't have been the best fit. And once we get into it, we find that yeah, they just aren't quite ready. That's just they thought they thought that this was the path they wanted to be on, and once they got started on the path, they're like, oh wait a minute, like this is taking me to places that I'm not as comfortable with as I thought.
Mhm.
I need to go back and get on a different path, and that might look a little bit more conventional.
Mm.
So, but I would say most people, that at this point, I've been doing this long enough, I think people are drawn to me because of, where I'm at
Yeah.
in my values and how I do things, and so it's been really beautiful. I've had people have amazing outcomes, people who felt like they tried everything and nothing worked. And this approach where you're really listening to your own body and letting your own body kind of be the guide to get
Mm.
you onto a long-term path that's gonna keep you healthy and well, they like that. They're like, "Okay, like this that one size fits all, everybody should eat this way or everybody should eat that way, doesn't work. Let's let our own bodies,
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
out what works best."
yeah, that definitely. I really admire that, and that definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense because um, just pills and medicines. I mean, a quick fix is not the answer for long term here.
Right. No. Nope, it's not, and people need to be ready to jump into the full thing, and not everybody's ready, so, but I'm here for those that are.
Beautiful, beautiful, Angie. So, for that, if our listeners would like to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, well, they could go to heartwellnesscoaching.com, and there are multiple places where they can click a button and go to scheduling a free wellness strategy call. And so that's a just a no risk, no pressure opportunity to just chat with me about what's been going on and what they've tried and what they're trying to change or improve. And then, we talk about whether or not it would be a good fit to work together. And I've lots of options. So I've really tried to make it so that I've got something for just about every budget and,
Mhm.
something that I can offer to pretty much anybody and just different levels of coaching support. So they can do that. They can also find me on Facebook. It's just Facebook Heart Wellness Coaching, Instagram Heart Wellness Coach, and TikTok it's Heart Wellness Coach, I think. And also Pinterest Heart Wellness Coaching. So
So, I'll make sure to have all the links in the show
Mm,
notes, Angie.
mm.
And yeah, I really loved that you mentioned that you have something for everyone. I think accessibility is a key factor in having a mindful healthcare system for everyone.
Mm.
Everyone has the right to get it.
Yes, thank you, Sana. Yeah, I like to say in my hashtags, everyone deserves health. Everyone deserves health, and people have been misled. And people, I mean, I love to help people with resistant weight loss because I think they've just been told so many things that they need to do and it's not working. And everyone deserves health. And so yeah, I want to have a price point that everybody can um get into, so thank you.
Definitely. Great, great. So, I really appreciate you shared your story, your insights, and it really kind of has made it clear that gut isn't just about the food we eat or digestion, but I think it's the holistic body balance. So, thank you so much,
Yes,
Angie.
100%. Thank you so much, it's been my pleasure.
And to all the mindful listeners, if you are curious about working with Angie and learning more, we'll have all the links in the show notes for you. You can just refer to them along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And as always, if you connected with this conversation, be sure to follow the Mindful Living and share this episode with someone who's ready to take a more integrated, mindful approach to their health. And until next time, stay mindful and stay curious and take care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you.